Hello everyone. I finally get on to do this live video about grief. I was trying to do it on my computer because I wanted to share my screen with you to show you a chart to help explain what I'm about to explain when I talk about grief. Now, I know I said I was going to do this at 8:30, then it got pushed out to 8:45, and now it's 9 whatever, but it doesn't really matter. But I wanted to use today to talk about this. Last week I spoke about guilt. If you want to link to that video, I'll put it in the comments below. But I'm going to spend the next few weeks just talking about different emotions that we experience. G'day Floody, g'day Lavon. Actually, Floody, you might want to tune into this and listen to this one, mate. Anyway, so I'm here to talk about grief tonight because it's a really, really very, very tricky emotion for us to navigate and overcome. And I want to explain to you my extensive experience in dealing with grief from my own personal journey as someone who lost a brother at the age of 18 or 17, but also because of the work I've done with literally hundreds of clients, and many of them around the feelings of grief and why it is something that is so hard for us to overcome. First of all, I want to start by busting this myth and saying that the intention of this video comes from a place of love to bust through the myth that it's time that is needed to overcome the passing of a loved one. We hold on to this belief that here's the thing, if we've had if we're experiencing really intense grief, it usually means that we've loved very intensely. It's almost like this contrast of emotion. We've loved something or someone so incredibly deeply, and this grief that I'm talking about is the grief related to the passing of loved ones or pets. So we've loved so incredibly intensely that the grief that comes from their passing is equally as intense. So it's like this mirror, it's this juxtaposition of the emotions. Now, every time I work with a client and we are working on unresolved grief and we're working on the underlying feelings of letting go, we actually have this belief in our psyche that grief needs to be there for this really one simple thing. And I ask every client who I do grief work on, if you were to let go, hey John and Julia, this is so appropriate to you guys, this topic, talking about grief. We have a belief. If I say to a client, if there was a benefit to grief, what would it be? Now, the initial response is always, well, there's no benefit to grief. You know, I feel like shit and it doesn't benefit me whatsoever and I feel bloody terrible. I said, yes, but I said, if there was a reason for holding on to the abjectly strong grief that you feel, what would the benefit be? And the answer is always this, and it's a counterintuitive answer. And I'm going to explain in a second why. Hi, Vanessa. We think that if we stop grieving for the person that has died, we are literally going to forget them. That is the reason why we hold on to grief. We think if I'm not grieving this person, I'm going to forget, and I've got notes under here to remind me, I'm going to forget who they are. And I say, so you think you need to feel sad and need to be in your grief to remember the person that you've lost? Of course, the answer after that is always no. Of course I don't. No, you don't need to be sad to remember your loved one. It's not like the day that you finally let go of your chronic grief that you suddenly forget who they are. And I'm about to share something with you that explains emotions on a vibrational level, on an energetic level. And I can't show you this because I'm not on my computer. But I've spoken about this. I spoke about it last week with my guilt video. But we have this triangle. It's called, I'll post a picture of it again in the comments, but we have this triangle of emotions and they start at the bottom with shame, and this triangle of emotions shows the frequency or vibration of emotions. It shows the energy that they have. Now, the lower down this triangle of emotional scale that an emotion is, the more detrimental it is to our feelings of joy, happiness, and ultimately to our health. Now, if you look at this the triangle, inverted triangle that I talk about, last week guilt was right down near the bottom, second to last. Now it goes shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear. So Grief is under fear on the vibrational scale of emotions. So when we're experiencing unresolved grief, we're sitting very low down on the scale. We then move up the scale into desire, anger, pride, willingness, or courage, willingness, acceptance, reason, and all these other emotions. And we go up, up, up. And then we hit love, peace, and joy. Now, think about that. If we're down in the bottom of the triangle in unresolved grief, we're not feeling joy. So we're not feeling love and joy and peace and happiness and all those things. And because we're holding on to grief because we think we're going to forget our loved one and letting it go, we're actually robbing ourselves of our joy. Now, here's what's interesting. When we're in the lower scale of vibrational energy of emotions, you're actually not remembering that person from the place of love. Because when you're in grief, all you are attached to is the energy or the incidences around their death. And you're frozen in the now. And you're not actually remembering your memories, your fond and loving memories of the past. You only remember those fond, loving memories of the past when you move out of grief, move up that scale of vibrational frequency into those other higher vibrational emotions such as love and peace and joy. And yet we hold on to this grief. It's like this thing. We wear it like a cloak. It's like, I have to have this grief. I need time to heal. And I'm about to get really spiritual on you here around this. When you are stuck in the present moment or the past around the story of a loved one's death and you're holding on to that, you're actually not truly remembering. So how do we get to remember? By reminding ourselves why we loved that person so much. You've got all this grief. For what reason? Because they were so good to me, because I loved them so much, because we had so much fun together, because we had so many laughs, because they cared for me, because they were such a big part of my life, because we shared so many memories. Okay, so stop there, right? When you start thinking about that stuff, how do you feel? Oh, I feel really good. I feel really connected. I feel closer to that person. So then I get my clients to do this thing where I get them to place their hands on their heart. And I get them to drop into gratitude, and I get them to remember why their grief is so strong. It's because they loved so much. And then what I get them to do is remember their loved one through the memories and the feelings of gratitude and love. Because when you put your hands on your heart and you remember why you loved that person so much in your life, that is how you remember them. You remember them by remembering the joyful moments from the past. You don't remember them by holding on the grief around their death. Now, here's the other thing. We carry guilt around letting go of grief. And on that vibrational scale, that triangle, guilt is second to last. Who am I to get on with my life? Who am I to be happy? They're not here anymore. I can't be happy. I can't find joy and love. Who am I to feel these things when they're dead? Well, here's the thing that's going to really blow your mind. And maybe some of you will sit there and go, what a load of shit. If you don't believe me, go read the book Many Lives, Many Masters by Brian Weiss. I have taken clients through this next part of the healing journey where I've got them to go back or sit there and tune into the energy of their loved one. Tune into their loved one as if they are in the room with them right there and then. And I get them to do this really simple thing. Anyone who's jumping on right now, I'm talking about grief, how to overcome it, why we don't want to overcome it, why it holds us back. I get my clients to do this one thing. If your mother, father, brother, sister, cousin, uncle, whatever, if they were alive right now and they could see you sitting in this chair and they could see you suffering and they could see you hurting, what do you think they would say to you? What do you think they would say? What advice would they give you? From your heart, not from your head, not from your ego, which is all those lower vibrational emotions, but from your heart, what would your loved one say to you? And every single client says this. They would want me to be happy. Yes, they would. Because guess what? They are. On a soul level, we choose when we come into this earth, who are we going to be born into, who our parents are going to be, who our siblings are going to be. And We can resist this as much as we want, even if the death is sudden, it's unexpected, it's a murder, whatever it is, whatever, sudden death, car accident, young. They choose their time, they choose their time of departure. All souls choose their time to leave this planet. How do I know this? Because I've done some deep, deep, deep healing work around the death of my brother who took his own life. And I've asked the question, why? You were so young, you were 15. And I got a very, very, very clear answer. Because my time on this planet was done. I was not meant for this planet for a long time, Sonia. In fact, the reason, if I hadn't died, what would you be doing now? My whole work that I do is because of the fact that I went through such extreme grief at the death of my brother and had to heal from that. It's my main motivator for why I do the work now, working with people with anxiety and depression, because that was my brother. He had all of that. He struggled with that, undiagnosed. But my point here is this. They're okay. They've returned to love, whether you're spiritual or not, whether you believe it or not. If you think, if you think it's just a physical body and they're gone, then even more reason to let it go and stop grieving. Yes, give yourself a little bit of time. You always need time. But when you're holding on to that grief to the point where it's stopping you from moving forward in your life, and it's stopping you from remembering your loved ones from a loving place and space and energy, then you've really got to start to consider, is this in my best interest? Is this the reason they would have died? I can take my clients through processes where they get to go back in time and talk to their loved ones and say the goodbyes they didn't get to say and rewrite the memories around the time of their death. I've done it hundreds of times. You may think that's crazy, but it's the crux of matrix re-imprinting. It's the crux of the work I do. I help people reconnect in on a very deep spiritual loving level with their loved ones so that they can resolve the stories, the questions, and the beliefs that they have around their death so that they can start to move forward. Because I promise you now, you will not ever remember them by constantly staying in grief. Constantly staying in grief is stopping you from remembering. And it is not what they want for you. They want you to be happy. And here's another amazing thing that happens when you step out of grief and step into love and step into trust. And it's hard because you want them, you want to touch them, you want to hold them. You think to yourself, I'm never, ever, ever going to see them again. No, you're never going to see them with your eyes and you're never going to hold them with your arms, but they are around you 24/7. They are giving you signs. If I could tell you the stories and the most crazy synchronicities that I have had around my brother and the ways that he has shown up to me that gave me goosebumps all over my body and had me bawling my eyes out, not out of sadness, but in this absolute recognition that they are never ever gone. And we are moving into such an incredible place of evolution in our humanity from third dimensional consciousness to fifth dimensional consciousness, the age of Aquarius, where we more and more and more are understanding that we're not human bodies on this planet. We are souls and higher selves with a human body having an experience. And if you read the book, Many Lives, Many Masters, it was the book that changed my life because it made me realize our lives are forever. We are forever souls. You will see them again. You will see them again, if not in a soul life, you will see them again on this planet as another being in another life with you. And if you read the book by Dr. Brian Weiss, Weiss, it explains this all to you. So that is my plea to you. If you're struggling, I want to make sure I've covered everything. If you're struggling with letting go of grief because you're scared that in letting go you're going to forget, again, it's not true. You don't need to be sad to remember. You can be happy and joyful. They give you permission to move forward with your life. They want you to be happy. They want you to live your fullest, best life. And the best thing about having someone who's passed on, you've got your own angel up there, out there, omnipotently looking after you, keeping an eye on things for you. You know, you hear the most beautiful stories of people's experiences once they finally realise, I'm free to move forward and let into my life all the beautiful things. And when you've got your own angel up there in heaven or whatever you want to call it, giving you guidance. They are going to bring into your life and they are going to support you. You've got your angel crew up there who are going to bring into your life those things to realign you. Sometimes they have to pass. And, I agree, Sandra, it takes time, but it doesn't have to take long. And that's what I'm trying to say here. That's what I offer as a service to people, is to understand it doesn't have to take forever. We're not meant to be suffering. That is my whole point. You have to be willing to want to move forward with your life, though, and give yourself permission to be happy again. And there is time that's needed, but you sort of get to a little bit of a stage where you go, you know what? It's time to move on now. And like I said, if you talk to them and ask them, they will tell you, I'm fine. I am fine. I'm happy dee-doo-da dippity day. They're at peace. And just the other day, I watched the most amazing video by Zach Bush, who talked about people that he's brought back from life in EU departments who are dying, and he brings them back and he says to them, why'd you bring me back? You don't know where I just went. It was amazing. It was beautiful, it was peaceful, and it was light. And you brought me back! You brought me back into this planet. So just remember that. They're actually a lot better off than us. Yeah, they are. They're in a really good place. And hold that in your heart. And if you want to remember them, move out of grief and just move into the happy memories. Mwah. Love and light. And if you're really struggling to let go, it's a matter of sessions with grief. It doesn't take long, 2 or 3 sessions, and we can move through that chronic grief that you might be experiencing. So thank you, John, for watching. Sandra, I'm sending you lots of love. And it's so hard when we lose that person. If you didn't see the beginning of the video, get back in touch. There's so much more. There's so much more out there, and they want us to be happy. Love and light, everyone. Sandra, I'll talk to you soon. Give me a message, hon, and I'll chat to you. Mwah. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.